Hello everyone, welcome to edition 84 of Artisan Weekly. It's been another cracking week in the Laravel world. We had Laravel London on Wednesday. Sadly I couldn't be there, but on all accounts it was a really good event with some great speakers. So we've got the next event lined up, so don't forget to go check that out. But yeah, it's been really interesting, lots of things going on, so let's dig into the top 10 for this week. So in first place, we've got this post here by Damien. It's basically a post-mortem over on GitHub of what happened with Composer this week. I don't know if you all saw that, and if you haven't, go out there and go and check it out and upgrade your Composer version, because there was an issue with GitHub Actions where it was leaking tokens, so a possible supply chain attack. But yeah, Damien's gone through it here, done a really good post-mortem, so if you're interested in this kind of thing, it's worth a read. And then next up, we've got a post over on Laravel Cloud by Anna. Now this is an interesting one because it's from a non-technical kind of standpoint. Kayla needed to build a website, wasn't a developer, didn't know anything about it, but went about with Claude Code and deployed with Laravel Cloud and got something built in 5 days, which is really cool. It's great to see that AI is kind of opening up the ability for non-developers to kind of build these kind of things. But yeah, it's just an interesting take on something that we do day to day. Then next up, we've got this post here by Galfaras. He opened a PR into the framework. It was rejected, but he didn't stop there. He didn't kind of say, okay, he went out there and he built a package for it. And of course, sometimes you have this itch, if something you don't like or you would love to see in the framework, it does get rejected sometimes, these PRs. So he went about and built a package called Array After. So yeah, if you've been looking for this kind of functionality, there is now a package out there for you to do that. Next up then, we've got this post here by Zacharias over on Laraclast. Now this is an interesting one because I hadn't really thought about doing this in the past, but he talks about how you can make any eloquent model authenticate any eloquent model. We're basically using the trait, the authenticatable trait that we usually see on the user model. It was just interesting how he applied it to a project and got the whole sanctum, everything to work, instead of using a user but using a project. Next up then, this post here by Steve. We all know Steve. He goes through the Laravel request lifecycle. So it's a right in-depth post, step-by-step walkthrough of what happens when a request comes into a Laravel application, how the application handles it, and kind of what happens all the way through. So if you're interested in doing like deep dives into the framework, another really good post here by Steve. Next up then, we've got this post here by Pietro. So he talks about using generators instead of arrays when you're doing data providers in PHP unit. So data providers are a nice way to be able to test, do multiple chunks of thing in a single test. You build an array of data, and it will loop through that array and run it through the test and check the result. So it's a nice way of being able to test multiple things through a method, a single method. So instead of using an array, he is here talking about using generators, which is a nice approach. Next up then, we have Hafiz. Subagents, they've just been released to the AI SDK. So if you've not come across them before, but basically it's a way of allowing your main agent to pass tasks on. And now that they've released this, it basically means that agent now doesn't have to, the sub-agent has its own context, doesn't have to bring anything across, which was happening before. It was more of a hack before. So that it was getting a load of context from the main agent, but now it kind of has its own thing. So they're dedicated classes now. It's a really nice enhancement to the AI SDK. So that was released this week. So it's really nice to see this SDK coming along really nicely. And then we've got Michael. He's done a post here on property hooks. So PHP 8.4. These were kind of part of the framework, part of the core language. And he kind of shows an example here of how he was able to clean up some of his objects, some of his classes using property hooks is quite nice. We haven't used them yet, or I haven't had a go using them, but they do look quite nice. And if you're able to clean up your code like he shows here, then it's a win-win, isn't it? Next up, then we got Brent. Basically, it's an interesting post because he's there's been a lot of debate, about like what PHP can do to basically make itself appear more appealing to new developers. One thing they talked about was social media. The Twitter account hasn't had any posts for ages. There's all these things. So Brent went and looked at the documentation, kind of took it from a beginner standpoint to see how easy it was to get up and running, and then he compared it to a bunch of other frameworks, bunch of other languages, and it was quite an interesting take on it. We know that the PHP Foundation is doing things right now. They're starting to get the ball rolling, but something needs to happen to kind of make PHP feel more appealing again. And then finally, we've got this post here by Jeffrey Davidson. It's an interesting one because we all know there's 100 different ways to write code. There's 100 different ways to to architect your application. Some people might put in different folders. Some people might kind of do it this way. But Jeffrey here, he goes into some nice detail on how he applies, how he does these things, the kind of folder structure, the way he writes his controllers, skinny controllers, action classes, service classes, enums, all the kind of things that as a modern day PHP developer you should be doing. And this kind of resonated with me because it's how we do things at Jump24. A lot of these things that we do when we build applications, and I really like that. So yeah, if you've kind of perhaps looking for a new way to write your applications, structure them, this is a great post that might help out. So that's it for this week. Like I said, thanks for watching. If you found anything interesting here, please do go and thank the authors. Give them a heads up on Twitter or on LinkedIn or anything like that. And if there was anything that you'd love to see in the next article, do let me know. Drop the link into the Artisan Weekly, submit the link. And don't forget, there's a newsletter, so sign up to that and you can get this in your inbox every Friday morning. So thanks everyone, and I shall see you again next week.